All right, you guys, here we are at another episode. It's like episode 2 officially of the music memories of the 20th century. And this is where I just, I take a friend or an acquaintance, kind of around my age or whatever, um, and who grew up in the late 20th century listening to music, whether it was going to a lot of shows or not, whether you're a musician or you're not. You could have been like me. I was kind of dabbled a little bit, you know, musician and seeing shows and stuff. But for me, I was alone a lot, listening to albums and stuff like that. And for me, it was a lot of medicine, And so I want to invite anyone who's watching this, especially the Facebook crowd. If I don't know you, we could just do a little short private stream beforehand or talk or something. But I'm going to do this every Friday. Just have a casual conversation. Also, real life first, right? Family first, real life first. Something went down in my home here. I got a professional here, so I might have to just jump out and let Kevin talk. But I don't think that's going to happen. It might happen though. But let me say hi to, hey, what's up, my friend Jim? He was here, for that punk rock, early punk rock scene at LA. We got our friend Will, who's Vlox 18. Thank you, Will, for being here. When I have Kevin on next, we'll also have you on with him. Yo, Jay, what's happening? Thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it. This is a fun show for me. And what's up, Leia? I got some YouTube friends here. Sometimes Facebook peeps do show up. You never know. Depends if I set it up right. But without further ado, let me bring in Jesus.
Oops. Hey, y'all. Good to see you.
I don't think you're streaming now. You could double check.
That'll be all right.
You could fix it right now. Anyway.
It says I'm live.
Okay, buddy. Okay. So this is my friend Kevin, who's seen an incredible amount of shows. And like I said, you don't have to do that in order to be here. But Kevin, you certainly have a lot of passion for music. You've met a lot of musicians, and you've done your research on musicians. And you primarily, to my understanding, like rock to metal to alt rock and stuff like that. You've listened to a lot of stuff.
Pretty much everything.
Pretty much everything.
A little bit of everything, even a little bit of rap.
Even a little bit of rap too, man. That's freaking awesome.
A couple of friends accused me of listening to disco because I like Electric Light Orchestra, and they kind of did some disco-ish stuff like Xanadu and stuff.
Oh yeah, for me, I used to have like heavy judgments when I was in the 20th century. Right, this is what I listened to. That's a bunch of shit, but. It ain't like that anymore, man. Now I just listen to the stuff with an open mind.
That was the worst when I went through my metal period. And I noticed that a lot of people that really only listen to metal really don't like anything else. They're really judgmental of other stuff.
Yeah, in high school, I grew up a metal kid. Pretty much.
I remember being that guy.
Yeah, I remember that for myself, But let's take you back to the beginning. You don't necessarily have to say what year but just let us know.
I was born in 1966.
Wow, man. So, I'm like your younger brother over here.
There was some awesome music back then. My mother was a big Elvis and Beatles fan.
Yep.
So I heard a lot of that early in my life. I love the Beatles, and I appreciate Elvis. I don't listen to much Elvis, but I do still listen to the Beatles. And hello to everybody in chat. It's good to see y'all here.
I'll be doing that a little bit as you're talking. I hope it doesn't distract you too much. I do like to say,
And I guess my dad was the earliest influence. The stuff he listened to was what I heard in the house growing up.
Yeah.
I live in Middle Georgia, and in 1970, 70 or 71. It was the second annual Atlanta Pop Festival. It was actually held not in Atlanta, but in Byron, Georgia, which is about 10 minutes up the street from me. I mean, literally up the street. You don't even have to get on a highway or anything. And about 100,000 people showed up. They were not expecting that. Uh,
Yeah. And this was like mid 70s. You were just a
this
kid or
was
something like that?
1970. I was 4 years old.
Wow.
And I actually remember it was the first time, I guess, that I spent a few days away from mom and dad because they went to the festival. I went to grandma's house.
Okay.
And I was homesick. I remember that, calling mom. And it wasn't until years later that I realized what they did, where they went, and how big a deal it was.
Right.
Let's see, I can present a video file, which we're not going to listen to any of them, but we can put it on the screen in another window so people can see. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. Present, share screen. I got quite a few here, so this will be the first one. This guy showed up by helicopter.
He showed up via helicopter
At 1 a.m. in the morning on Sunday morning.
Okay.
And played.
Wow.
And of course, that was this is one of the first songs I remember. We had a little dog, my little dog Brownie, a little Dachshund type dog. He was a cross between a Dachshund and a terrier. So, and I remember my dad put on a Jimi Hendrix album, and it was the song "And the Gods Made Love," and it's got some really high pitched guitar parts. And I thought it was so funny because the dog was sitting there looking at the speaker, tilting his head with his ears pointed up. He couldn't figure out what that sound was. But I just remember that's one of my earliest memories. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like at a performance in a theater and just hitting some high notes or
that one. And gosh, I gotta get quicker at this.
It's cool.
These guys who were not at the Byron Pop Festival, but they were at Woodstock. And I still listen to these guys quite a bit.
Yeah, so you were at your early years, a lot of Southern rock too, right? I mean,
that comes a little later.
They don't necessarily like the expression. Well, I know the Allman Brothers. You were saying they don't like the expression Southern rock.
I found that most artists don't like labels. They don't like being categorized into a specific genre. They just want to do what they do. And they kind of resent being labeled, and especially, the Allman Brothers. And I'm gonna pull them up next because that's where it really starts with me. I listen to, my music taste started forming with bands like Crosby, Stills and Nash and Jimi Hendrix and a lot of the other Woodstock bands, Country Joe and the Fish. If they were at Woodstock, my dad probably listened to them, and I heard it at that early age. But there was one band that was local. They lived right up the street from us. My dad saw them in a little bar in Macon, Georgia, when they were just getting started. And of course,
who was that?
That would be these guys.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Matthew says rock was invented in the South.
Yeah.
And so I call it Southern rock, right?
Right. Yeah. And that, of course, is the Allman Brothers band.
See, now
I'll go to what I listen to.
Okay. All right.
This should be fun.
But you have a real connection to all of that.
And it comes back up.
Through your dad and
part
stuff.
two before that comes back up, but it does come back up.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I like this this format here. You bringing up videos. I think it's great.
These guys. I loved my Saturday morning cartoons, and the Bay City Rollers were on Saturday morning cartoons. Y'all have probably never heard of these guys. This was part of the Sid and Marty Krofft show. Captain Cool and the Kongs. Now these guys were really bad.
Like Captain Cool and the Kongs.
Oh yeah, but they were rock. In fact, they were a little bit, I would say, more rocky and more heavy than the Bay City Rollers were. You know, you
Wow.
actually get some hint of a riffs going there, and almost a grunge at times,
Huh.
with that overlaying pop sound, of course.
Yeah, okay, so they had their own show, like the Bay City
Yeah,
Rollers.
they did. It was the Sid and Marty Krofft show. Captain Cool and the Kongs were like the hosts of the show,
Huh.
and the Banana Splits were part of it for a while because that was a Sid and Marty Krofft creation. That's
Okay.
the number, that HR Puffin stuff, Lidsville. There were a few others. Sigmund the Sea Monster. Uh, there were a few other shows, but these were the musical entertainment, like the Bay City Rollers, and just weird, psychedelic. It was the early '70s.
It was early 70s. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm in grade school, probably third, fourth grade now, and it's 1976. I'm 10 years old, so you can figure out what grade that was. And me and my friends discovered something. This band had a concert on HBO, and they were all dressed up, and one guy was breathing fire.
HBO was new back then.
Oh yeah, brand new. Everybody had it and watched it.
Yeah.
One guy was breathing fire and puking blood.
What up, Kenneth Bird? Here we go.
So of course, the
Detroit
first band
rock.
I ever really liked that was really a band was Kiss.
Wow.
And how could you not like Kiss? Detroit, I had those were the first albums that I really owned that were what I wanted, Detroit Rock City, rock and roll all night.
Yeah. They got some great songs, man.
Yeah.
What a great band, right?
Yeah. They actually, a lot of people make fun of them, and I do too, to a degree. They're not what is coming.
Well, they're the ultimate.
But they were great. Yeah,
characters.
It's kind of like AC/DC. They only know 4 chords, but dude, some of those songs are freaking amazing and timeless.
Wow. So
but that's kind of started the groove, and it just went from there. And like Jay Thompson mentions, that was the era of the arcades, skate rinks, Blondie, Rapture.
Yeah.
All that stuff started up in the years that I was listening to.
Kiss had an HBO special. That's freaking great.
Yeah, the HBO had a concert, aired a concert in 1976 of Kiss, and it was a big deal to all the kids, Yeah. It was the first time we got to see some dude puking blood on stage and breathing fire. And they actually came to Macon in I think '78, and a lot of kids went. I didn't get to go. I was a little too young, but some of my friends did because their parents were a little more open to taking them to something like that.
Right.
And that kind of leads into the first show that I did go see, and I don't really have a video for that. Hey, and
wanna rock and roll all night. Yeah. That's great, dude. So you saw Kiss in that blew your mind away. Your teenage mind, right? Your teeny bopper mind or whatever.
Seeing them,
just all those visuals on HBO special.
Minds. Yeah, it kind of blew all the kids' mind, at least in my school.
And you actually were reading books back then, right? When you were a kid.
Oh yeah, right? I just started collecting comics around that time too.
Yeah, so that fit in perfect.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
They seem to be the ultimate, a really cool comic book characters, and they have comics. And Gene Simmons, I guess, is a comic book fan.
Right? Yeah. I turned it down quickly. I agree. By that time, I had quit listening. Once they got unmasked, I didn't care much for Kiss anymore. But at that time, I remember that. Turned into someone else.
They had all these.
The Bugaloos. Yes, the Bugaloos. Of course. They were great. They were another band, that played.
Yeah.
And that one, Oh, I forget her name. The pink girl. That was one of my first crushes.
Oh,
Are you on my page or Aaron's page?
yeah. Kevin is also streaming this to his page, so it's all good. You guys watch wherever you want to watch. But
They did. They put their blood in a comic book.
yeah, those guys.
Kiss, was it the Marvel Super Special? I think
Alice Cooper
Marvel,
came first,
like
right?
first
Before
one.
Kiss.
That was another one. Right after Kiss, I started getting into a lot of bands like Alice Cooper, Journey, Fleetwood Mac. You know, a lot of the '70s bands. I started listening to real music instead of the Bay City Rollers. AC/DC. You know, the
Nice.
Scorpions. Early Scorpions. I love early Scorpions. By the time they did Rock You Like a Hurricane, I'd kind of grown out of them. I was never a hair band fan.
Wow. Okay, so that was my
Never
era.
hair bands.
I grew up on that. You know,
I liked Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, but nothing
yeah.
after it.
She's got the looks
The
that
first
kill.
3 Motley Crue albums were great.
That
After that, didn't care. Alice Cooper actually did a comic book with Neil Gaiman. I don't know if you know that. But,
nice.
They have a comic together.
So
yeah, Alice Cooper's band was excellent. It still is.
Kiss opened up your brain, but you already had the rhythms, and you got introduced to guitar tones from earlier works from your dad listening to Allman Brothers. But
right.
It was Kiss that what you felt that you truly identified with.
And that was mine. And I remember my dad used to jog. And I remember we were jogging, and I was talking about Kiss, and he asked me, do you like them because all your friends like them, or do you like them because you like them? Oh, yeah. That kind of resonated with me, you know?
Yeah.
Because my friends like them that I like them, or do I really like them?
Yeah.
And I think I really liked them, you know?
Cool.
They make me feel a certain way. And that's what music does. It makes you feel a certain way. That's really, nothing else can do that. And I did want to mention, you know, I love comics. I get excited talking about comics. I get more excited talking about music.
Yeah. Music, for me, it's about 50-50. Yeah, about music more sometimes. Yeah, that's a tough one for me. You know.
So the first concert I went to was in 1978.
Wow.
My cousins, they were country boys. They lived out in the country. That's where I stayed with my grandma. They stayed there pretty much all the time.
Okay.
I visited.
Yeah.
They took me to my first concert at the Macon Coliseum, which is still standing. They still use the Macon Coliseum. That thing's been there since the 60s. It's got to be one of the oldest coliseums still in the country, still in use. They're talking about building a new one. Finally. Yeah. It's like, wow. Yeah, that made me think of how old it was.
Awesome.
But let's see. One of the bands that opened, the first opening band was Johnny Van Zandt.
Wow.
And that would have been before the crash where his brother died.
Okay.
The second opening band was these guys, the Atlanta Rhythm Section. And I didn't really know much about them, but I really liked it. You know, Champagne Jam.
Yeah.
We're going to have us a Champagne Jam. Doraville, Imaginary Lover, I'm Not Gonna Let It Bother Me Tonight. You know, some really cool songs.
That was your first show?
And the headliner was Charlie Daniels.
Okay.
And it was the Legend of Woolly Swamp album tour.
Wow.
And that guy played till 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, Charlie put on a hell of a show. He just he played that damn fiddle all night long.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun. That was my first experience with live music in a, you know, real setting like that.
And how old were you?
I would have been 13.
Wow. I think
right after my birthday.
I was close to that.
November, and this was in December, right around Christmas.
Yeah, I was close to that age too. You know,
we had been listening. My cousins drove around listening to these guys, and it's time to bring up another.
Okay. Yeah, I'm digging this, man. You're bringing stuff up. It's
this is.
I might actually do that more.
And I briefly mentioned them a second ago when I said the Crash.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Tat.
What up, Tat?
Those
So that was your
guys,
second show, you think? Was
no,
Leonard's?
I never actually got to see Skinner.
Oh, okay.
Not even the fake Skinner. The cover band or what a tribute band. That's what they are now.
Yeah.
Because literally there is nobody in the band now that was in the original band.
Right.
Ricky Medlock is the closest thing to an original member they got. And same thing with this band. In fact, this band, I think it's the second cousin of one of the original members, is the closest thing to an original member that these guys have. Molly Hatchet. I love the original Molly Hatchet album, Flirting with Disaster. I still love those albums.
Yeah, there was something with the
Danny
guitar.
Joe Brown.
Yeah, Molly Hatchet. I remember
they had that triple guitar attack. Just awesome. There they are. Flirting with Disaster.
Yeah, I remember liking that.
Some great songs.
When I was a metal kid,
they are Southern metal. That's what I always considered Molly Hatchet. They're not really rock. They're metal. They're Southern metal. That was the closest I could think of to describe Hatchet.
Yeah, cool, man. I'm glad that you brought the videos like this too.
And this is, I think, 78.
There's a YouTube channel called Guitar Meets Science, and he just plays footage and he talks over it. And I go, wow, what a great idea, you know?
Yeah. So, gosh, you mentioned second show. I guess the second show I ever saw would probably be this guy. And Boggs, you'll love this. It is About Time. Because he was my dad's favorite.
Jackson Brown.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Running on
very, very respected.
And he did play the Load Out, which is what Boggs says is one of his favorite songs. Just, Somebody's Baby from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Lawyers in Love. And that's the tour I saw. That was probably my second show, Lawyers in Love.
Wow.
Jackson Brown.
Yeah.
I remember he was in a black suit with a pink tie and pink shoes. And a pink guitar.
Well, there you go.
David Lindley, brilliant guitar player. So underrated. He should be brought up in any conversation of great guitar players. Jackson Brown's guitarist, who passed away, I think, in 2016.
I didn't know that Jackson Brown did a cover to If I Only Had a Brain.
There are some Jackson Brown rarities that he does this one about cocaine with David Lindley. Live at the East Point is the name of the album. And
our friend Damien.
There is some stuff on there that you can tell they are heavily dosed on cocaine and drunk.
What up, Damien? Thanks for
joining.
They're
like playing in a hotel room.
Uh-huh.
And recording it. And you got a little crowd of like 10 people crammed into a hotel room. And him and David Lindley are just jamming, and they recorded it. And it's got some of the funniest songs. Oh gosh.
Well, what I really love about the older recordings is you had to work as a musician to get recorded.
Yeah.
And to know, and so that
today anybody can do it. Pro Tools, bam, record an album.
Yeah. Damien, I want to pencil you in, Sleepy Reader. I want to pencil you in sometime for this show, man. I think it'd be great. He's a really huge music fan as well.
I think we've covered everything through the end of junior high. I think I was in junior high still when I saw Jackson Brown.
Okay.
And then I got to high school. And there was a friend I had in kindergarten that had moved away. He had moved to England, and he moved back. And that was in 9th grade. So he moved back, and I got to know him, and he introduced me to this band.
Okay.
And they became my favorite they became my obsession through
And
all of high school.
and Will, thanks for staying with us, man. Thank you for being in the chat,
And
staying with us.
yeah, thanks, man. They're if people ask me my favorite band, I'm quick to say this name. They still are my favorite band, even though I don't listen to them near as much as I used to.
Okay.
Nobody liked Rush.
No.
Great live album. Also includes La Via Strangiato live. And another one, while I was a fan of Rush during high school, of course, there were other bands I listened to, including these guys. Absolutely love. I still love all of the David Lee Roth Van Halen. I could care less about the Sammy Hagar version of Van Halen. I can't name a single song I like by him, but I love everything with David Lee Roth. It doesn't matter that Sammy Hagar is a better singer. David Lee Roth was a better leader, better frontman, and Eddie wrote better music when David Lee Roth was with the band. They were a hard rock band, not a hair metal pop band, if you know what I mean. These guys, love them to death, almost as much as Rush. You know, the Number of the Beast. I do. I like Hagar. I agree with you, Jay. Love Sammy Hagar solo. Can't stand him with Van Hagar. And they are Van Hagar, not Van Halen. All of Iron Maiden. I'm still a fan. Seen them. I think I've seen them 3 times. Power Slave was the first time. Just great. But huge sets, big giant Eddie that walks out on stage, you know, looking like that. Just so much great stuff. Couple of Rush compilations that I picked up because I had a CD player in a truck a few years back, so I had to go and pick up some stuff at the thrift stores to listen to on the CD player. Another one of my dad's favorites, also one of mine now, Neil Young, and of course this is one of the great classic rock albums, one of the best of all time. Heart of Gold, that's one of my all-time favorite songs. Lyrically, I would say. Let's see, who else did I go see in high school? Gosh, I have to pull my book full of tickets out. Let me do that. Actually, it's my photo album, so on the very first page, you'll see my very first big show. I do not have a stub for the Charlie Daniels Band show. I have no idea what that happened to that. But there is Jackson Browne, August 12th, 1983. And it cost $13.50. Van Halen, 1984. Yep. People ask me what was the best show you've seen. Because by my best estimation, I've been to right around 1,000 concerts in my life so far. Because I figure 2 a month for 40 years is more than 1,000. And there were months I went to a show Thursday, Friday, and Saturday every weekend of the month. I would be in Atlanta. Sometimes it was a festival. Gosh, I went to the Horde Festival and Lollapalooza the same weekend. You know, and they each had a dozen bands or so. Hey, Higgy, what's up? Waylon Jennings in 77 or 78. So that was the same year I went to see 78 was when I saw Charlie Daniels Band. Yeah, the 84 show was, out of those 1,000 concerts I've seen, it's one of the top 3. Absolutely. It may be the best one. I'll go ahead and, clue you in on a little bit of future stuff. Jane's Addiction is right there as one of the best shows I've ever seen. The Ritual de la Habitual tour in 90 or 91. Just an amazing show. I was a huge Jane's Addiction fan. Gosh, in high school, oh, that's what I got to look out for to crack my memory. In high school, my good buddy Steve, he was a drummer, and this is his band. And those were my good friends. And I was their light man. I had a course in electronics in high school, and I built a little light board with 4 dimmer switches for the 4 different color can lights we had, and 1 button that was just hold down for these airport lights that were exceedingly bright and would actually blind you for a minute, that we stuck in his bass drums. He had double bass drums. He was a Neil Peart fan. He had to have double bass drums. And let's see, I can show you. There's a picture of him at his drum kit with my cigarette smoke coming up and making it look really cool. And he is actually in Hollywood now. He moved to LA to try to make it big as a drummer back in 1990. And he's still there. He works for Sam Ash Music. He builds stages and stuff like that. He works Grammys. He's done the Grammys for quite a few years now. Here's one of the Iron Maiden tickets.
All right.
1985. I think that would have been Power Slave. There's Van Halen with Van Hagar. So in 86, in 84, I actually saw Van Halen, David Lee Roth. Amazing show.
Tell me why I have to be a power slave. Right.
In 1986, I saw Van Hagar on the 5150 tour. Bachman Turner Overdrive opened, which was a good thing because Bachman Turner Overdrive kicked ass, and I walked out on Van Hagar. The only show I ever walked out of. I left.
Hey, so you guys, real life first, right? Had someone in the house, had a professional around. So I appreciate my man Higgy being here.
You think I was into music in high school?
What's this?
This is my bedroom.
Oh,
Iron Maiden and Led Zeppelin. This is the other wall. It's all metal bands, concert posters cut out.
It's great that you did this, man. It's great that you put the 3-ring binder. I want to see the pile of concert tickets that you.
Oh, that doesn't. All the concert tickets up through about 1990 are in my photo albums.
I love Jane's Addiction, you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so now what did we cover already? Do we need
come back for part 2? You'll get to see all these tickets.
Yeah.
This is 1990 up to now. Well, up to when they started going digital, and now I don't have freaking tickets anymore. All I have is.
I mean, we could keep going for a little bit here if you want.
Some of these are from back in high school, which is funny because this is Saturday, November 15th, 1985, and it was my birthday. That's my birthday. $8.50 for Hallows Eve opening for Megadeth on the Peace Sells But Who's Buying tour.
Awesome.
And amazing show. Metroplex, you can look that up. It was a classic Atlanta club. It was burned down by the owner for the insurance money in 1990 because his girlfriend was on a ship that came up missing. It's actually covered on Unsolved Mysteries, I believe. And she was taken by pirates or something. They don't know what happened to her, but he spent a lot of money doing that, and he ended up burning the Metroplex down. The Metroplex was Atlanta's only punk thrash metal club. They would have Circle Jerks, Dead Kennedys, Black Flag, and then they would have Megadeth. Metallica played there one time. Megadeth probably played there 20 times. They seem to play there every few months. Anthrax, Testament. I saw all those guys multiple times at Halloween. They were regulars.
It's hello.
They were going to have King Diamond. I had tickets for King Diamond, and oh my God, that bastard won $15 a ticket. That's like double what everybody else charged. How dare he charge $15?
So where the
But
heck?
he showed up. You know, I guess it was his first freaking tour in America.
Yeah.
And of course, in Europe, they're playing freaking arenas and stuff. Merciful Fate. And King Diamond. He comes over here. And he looks at a 500-seat club and he's like, I'm not playing that place. It's too small. My stage won't even fit in there. And left.
Wow.
He wouldn't even play. And it canceled day of show. So
Wow.
they had Paul Di'Anno's Battle Zone. Paul Di'Anno was the original singer of Iron Maiden for the first two albums prior to Bruce Dickinson. And so we got quite a few old Iron Maiden.
Could I tell you what my first concert was?
Sure.
Tell me why I have to be a power slave.
Oh, yeah. I just showed my ticket. That was a 1985 Power Slave tour.
Man, so I had to take care of something personal, but what did I miss? Where are we at in your timeline? Did you want to keep going? Because I know I'm going to interview Tat next week.
Yeah. Well, probably now's a good time to cut off. This is, we're right at the end of high school.
Okay.
1985. You know, I was listening to all the Motley Crue, like I said earlier, the first three albums. Def Leppard, the first couple of albums.
So
Pyromania is when I lost interest. Everybody else discovered them, and I'm like, they just went pop. Because hair metal to me was pop music. I didn't.
Well, I grew up on that. You know,
that was my judgmental era.
Well, I don't blame you because
it's real metal, man. Screw that Def Leppard crap.
By the late 80s, I mean, it was slightly before Nirvana that I dropped it. Or was it at Nirvana? It was around 89, 90, you know?
Yeah. When the grunge era hit, hair metal died. I think grunge metal pretty much put the last nail in the coffin of hair metal. But, you know, we used to I had to ride the bus over to the tech school, and there was a friend of mine that always brought his boombox, and he was Quiet Riot, Twisted Sister, all the MTV metal bands, you know. So, you know, I like that. All right. Beanie. Good laugh.
Well, you were anti-grunge. Wow. I was totally
a little older. I can understand. I was kind of not a big. I loved Pearl Jam.
They hated that label too, right?
Grunge. I like King Spirit. That's the only thing I like about Nirvana. I really could care less about Nirvana, but I knew the first time I ever
loved Nirvana. Spirit,
I knew that song was going to be huge.
I freaked out.
And that, you know, since we're talking Nirvana, here's a band I liked a lot better than Nirvana that came out around the same time. If I could find them. Here they are. Beanie. Smashing Pumpkins.
It's the Beanie alert, you guys.
Ish. Bury me. I guess it was Siva. Siva was the first song I heard, and I'm like, dude, these guys are badass.
Yeah, dude.
And of course, Pearl Jam, who I've seen 3 or 4 times in concert. I was a big fan of 10 and nothing after that. I don't know what it is about first albums or something about first albums. They tend to be sometimes the best album of many bands.
Yeah. For a lot of reasons. Just you know, if they catch them at right when they're super hot, like that Van Halen at the first one, you know.
Oh right, Jay. Pantera and White Zombie, cool. I mean, I absolutely was at White Zombie. I would go to Dragon Con in the early 90s, and one year at Dragon Con, White Zombie just happened to be playing the club in Atlanta right near Dragon Con. So we got tickets, went to the White Zombie show for Dragon Con, and half the people at the concert had their Dragon Con stuff on because they were at Dragon Con too.
Well, I felt like we got interrupted by a couple things. I got pulled away. I couldn't really do the interview. It's like I normally like doing. And then while I was away, we had a strike and everything stopped, right?
Yeah.
You know,
For 2
so
minutes.
I didn't even notice that.
I tried to let everybody know, don't leave, stick around. It comes right back.
Yeah.
They check to make sure you pulled it down, and then they put you back on.
So too many visuals, I guess.
Yeah.
Even if you turn the sound off.
Probably left the Rush La Via Strangiato video up too long. And it's a 10-minute video, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't here to
maybe if you
control
only
that.
play 30 seconds or so, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. I got pulled away, and it's a serious thing, a matter that I got pulled away from, and I couldn't come back. And then that was running,
right?
So we got shut down.
Yeah, I should have taken it off the screen because I can do that.
Oh, you do have control here. That's great.
Since I presented it, I can also pull it off.
Cool.
What? How do you get paid to see a Pantera White Zombie show? That's awesome.
I'll get Jay on here, and with that, you guys, I want to do this once a week, Fridays. Anyone who has memories of the 20th century they'd like to share, just contact me. I'll have Kevin back for part 2. Next week is going to be Tat.
Part 2 of 3, I'm going to say, based on how unless we do 2 hours on part 2, we might can make it a 2-parter that way.
Yeah, normally this show kind of went awry, unfortunately, but I think we still had fun here.
Oh, yeah.
And so anyone contact me, whoever's watching this video, if you just want to have fun, that's what this is about. We have this technology. Why not use it,
Oh, yeah. You were the bouncer at the backstage door.
Nice, Jay.
Hell yeah.
Cool. I'll even interview Jay, and yeah, I think it's a great format. It's fun. With that, I want to thank the chat.
Guys.
I want to
thank part 2 now because there's a lot more to go.
Yeah, we're gonna do part 2 with Kevin here.
You see the Allman Brothers posters behind me. There's Primus. Actually, Primus doing Rush. Let's see if I can zoom in on that somehow. I think I can. Oh well, I don't know how to do it.
I won't have you on next week because next week is going to be Tat, and then the following week is going to be part 2, Kevin. Okay.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah, so there'll be.
Let me know.
Yeah, and then after that, I'll have other people lined up, and this is going to be a lot of fun. My friend Brian Funk said he would do it, and he does the music production group, and he has a podcast, and he said he would do it as well. And anyone that I know on Facebook and YouTube that you have memories of the 20th century and music's important enough to try to figure out what happened, if you can remember linearly, when you were younger till it's tough.
I keep having to go back and go, oh yeah, I forgot to mention these guys. I forgot.
Yeah, it's probably good to do the part 2, and then just take notes. I want to thank you for bringing the videos. I think it's a good idea. Maybe we'll talk about that further and
just keep them short.
And keep them short.
And if not that, then just choose a couple of frames.
Yeah.
Just like show still shots of the artists.
Yeah, we'll figure that one out. All right, you guys. Take care, man. Really appreciate all you peeps. No, you were not a bouncer. Okay. Jay, appreciate the sub too, my man. Deuces. See you on the next one.